Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'm looking around today, and what a beautiful day this is for a monument dedication. We couldn't have asked for better. We didn't have any kind of a rain day, so this was it, and we were blessed with this weather. And as I look around, the only thing better than that is the amount of people that showed up here. And that comes as no surprise to me. So I've been around over 20 years with the American Legion, and the people of Holliston, many, many times over all those years, have always had our back, and we really appreciate it. So welcome and thank you for coming to today's dedication ceremony for Holliston's Iraq Afghanistan Monument. My name is Steve Napolitano, Senior Vice Commander of American Legion Post 47, and also a Monument Committee member. As I stand here and think back 20 years, I'm reminded of the many young men and women who from our small town felt a sense of duty to serve their country and serve with honor they did. Today, we are honoring all those military members and their families who have served and sacrificed so much for America and its people. We cannot put into words how thankful we are to have so many brave warriors amongst us. Our hope is that this monument, in some small way, symbolizes the worthiness of their unwavering commitment to our way of life. We will be forever grateful. Now, before we get started with the ceremony, I would like to acknowledge my fellow committee members. And right beside me here, who's going to be your MC for the day, Ron Turcott, right here. And we got Stan Feinberg, right there. There we go. And we got Rich Finn. There he is. He marched with the troops today. Anyway, we are here today because of your hard work and efforts in making this project possible. I can't thank you enough. Now I'll turn this ceremony over to the MC, Ron Turcott. Thank you. Slide over here.
Yeah. As the chaplain of the VFW, I'd like to offer a prayer. Uncover. Almighty God, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. We have a wonderful history of a people who ran to you in time of storm, and you became a shelter. You have truly blessed America, and we gratefully acknowledge your grace, supply, and freedom. We also acknowledge that in this fallen world, evil rises up to challenge our resolve to hold on to our liberty. Time and again, you have used men and women as they stood in the gap to resist evil. Many have given their days, some have given their lives. We'll now have a moment of silence for those who did come back, only to encounter a darkened demon and not survive. Gracious God, you have been faithful, yet we have been forgetful. Forgive us that only it takes one generation to forget the names of those who served and those who gave their last full measure of devotion. They became a mere statistic, a faceless casualty. Today we stand united to stop this tendency of apathy. We forever enshrine the names of those who served. We vow to not forget their sacrifice, that they do not die in our often distracted memory. We come with profound gratefulness as we dedicate this monument. We pledge to treat it with dignity, and every once in a while to stop and bow our heads and remember. God bless this ceremony of honor. God bless America. We ask this in your holy name. Amen. At this time, we will place the wreath. Rifle squad.
And hope. Present arm. Order. Arm. Parade. Rest.
Senate President Karen Spilka could not be with us today. Instead, she has sent her associate, Mr. Sterling Edgar, who will deliver her address. Mr. Edgar.
Thank you, and good morning. As was stated, my name is Sterling Edgar, and I am here as a representative of Massachusetts Senate President Karen Spilka, delivering her remarks. The Senate President wanted me to express how very honored she was to be invited here today, and how very excited she was to be with all of you. On her behalf, I would like to express a few words of gratitude. First, gratitude to the members of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and in particular to the members of the Iraq Afghanistan Monument Committee, without whose work this monument would not have been possible. Thank you. And also gratitude to the veterans to whom this memorial is dedicated, whose commitment is unparalleled. Thank you. All veterans and their families have stepped up to make unexpected and extraordinary sacrifices, sometimes even the ultimate sacrifice. The stories of veterans and their heroism deserve to be remembered, and the work of the VFW amplifies our memory, and in doing so, honors veterans while giving us, the rest of us, a sense of peace and of grounding. For future generations who will grow up without memory of these wars, or without memory of the people who dedicated their lives to serving in the cause of freedom, this monument will provide a noble tribute and a sense of perspective. So congratulations on completing this very meaningful and beautiful project. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Mr. Edgar. Our next speaker is the American Legion Commander, Steve Bradford. Steve has been very active in town affairs over the years. He is past president of the food pantry and still finds time to put in 20-plus hours a week. He has been honored with the Person of the Year Award in 2016. He still finds time to direct the annual Memorial Day festivities and other veteran events. Commander Bradford.
Read the names.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Good morning. Before I start, I want to recognize some individuals that are here. VFW Post 8507 Commander David DeGan. VFW Post 5594 out of Upton, Stephen Saucier. Holliston Police Chief Matthew Stone, Holliston Fire Chief Michael Cassidy, and National Senior Vice Commander of the Marine Corps League, Warren Griffin. Thank you for coming. Like everyone has said, what a beautiful day to dedicate a beautiful monument. I had talked to Senior Vice Napolitano yesterday, and he asked me if I had seen this at night. So Bob Hopkins and I came down last night and took some pictures. It's amazing. At night, it's really amazing. Thank you. So, as Ron mentioned, I'm Steve Bradford, Commander of the American Legion, Post 47. And I'd first like to thank the Senior Vice Commander, Steve Napolitano, and his committee, comprised of members of both the American Legion and the VFW posts, for all their hard work and the opportunity to address this gathering. This monument is dedicated to Holliston's sons and daughters who volunteered to serve our country in the War on Terror. We see 57 names on the tablet, some with gold stars next to their names, representing those who have lost their lives due to the effect of war. But what we do not see are the names behind them: the mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, sons, daughters, brothers, and sisters of these brave individuals. This came to heart when a cousin of mine with 3 sons serving in the Navy and the Marine Corps texted me saying, "I don't know how your mom did it." There were 3 of us serving. And whether they joined the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, these individuals left behind a family unit, a Blue Star family. There are many poems and songs written about military moms and families. I would read you one at this time. Can't give credit to the author. All it said was signed, "The Military Mom." You'll need to take some words to be inclusive. Soldier would be soldier, sailor, Marine. Son would be son and daughter. Man would be man and woman, etc. So don't take offense. The name of this is The Silent Soldier. I wear no uniform, no blues or greens, but I am in the military, in the ranks rarely seen. I have no rank upon my shoulder, salutes I do not give, but in the military world is where I live. I am not in the chain of command, orders I do not get, but my son is the one who does. This I cannot forget. I am not the one who fires a weapon, who puts her life on the line, but my job is just as tough. I'm the one left behind. My son is a patriot, a brave, pride-filled man, and the call to serve his country, not all can understand. Behind the lines, I see things needed to keep this country free. My son makes the sacrifice, but so do the rest of his family and me. I love the man I call my son. Soldiering is his life, but I stand among the silent ranks, known as the military mom. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander Bradford. Our next speaker is Mr. John Cronin, Clerk of the Select Board. Mr. Cronin.
Thank you, Ron. Distinguished members of the VFW and local posts. This morning, it's my pleasure on behalf of the Select Board of Holliston, Chairwoman Tina Hine, Vice Chairman Ben Sparrow, to congratulate you on this beautiful memorial. I will be very brief. Each time I'm asked to join our fellow veterans in these events, I'm extraordinarily humbled, a little nervous. I grew up honoring all of you, and I continue to honor you, your service, your commitment, the families that Steve so eloquently spoke about. It is extraordinary to be here today with you. There's 2 things I just wanted to point out. This memorial, of course, joins the memorial that we all know and love in front of Town Hall. It's an extension of the commitment that the town has shown our veterans over the years. The posts, the VFW, are another avenue for our veterans, our returning veterans, to gather and support each other. The main thing that I would like to ask each of you today is, as you leave here today, acknowledge this beautiful and perpetual memorial to those who served in Afghanistan, in Iraq during the War on Terror, but most of all, thank a veteran. Their service is something that stays with them forever, some ways in very prideful ways, some ways in very dark. The thanks that we give them can never be enough, and it's humbling to be with them today. I ask you to be with them every day. So on behalf of Holliston, thank you very much. Veterans, I honor you. Thank you for your service, and please, everyone, have a joyful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin. We are very pleased to have Sven Moisdes, who is a decorated Iraq veteran. He joined the Marine Corps in August of 2003. After infantry training, he went on to be assigned as a demolition javelin infantry soldier, assigned to the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. He was deployed to Iraq in June of 2004. And in November of 2004, he was part of the force that took back Fallujah, which saw the worst hand-to-hand and door-to-door fighting since the Battle of Hue City in Vietnam 54 years earlier. Sven?
Good morning. First, thank you to my parents. They made this legend possible. In 2001, when Afghanistan started, the town of Holliston had a population of around 14,000, 1,390 actually. So the men and women here, 57, they comprise about maybe about a half a percentage of the town population. And I wanted to make mention of two guys that I served with in the Marines that came through Holliston, but they enlisted out of another area, so they're not represented here. One is Scott Green, class of 2001, and Joseph Panfile, class of 2003. Scott fought alongside me in the Battle of Fallujah in 2004 in the same company and later in the same platoon. You imagine that? Two guys from Holliston in the same platoon, the entire Marine Corps. In the infantry. We talked about the days where we would just BMX all over Holliston, cause all sorts of trouble, and it was just mischief, because back then you were allowed to get into mischief. Scott and I, we had an interesting go of it, We lost 24 guys in a matter of days and 28 over our deployment. As stated, it was not so good. We often regaled the fact that the more stars we saw on collars and the more they told us how we were going to make history, the more we knew that it was not going to be so good. We made it home a couple more times. Scott went down to Paris Island, become a drill instructor, served 10 more years, and he now is retired in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Before Scott and I moved apart in the Marine Corps, a kid from Recon checked into our platoon. Lo and behold, Joe Panfile. Now we have 3 guys from Holliston in the same platoon in the entire Marine Corps. Joe deployed with 1-8 a few more times. Unfortunately, when Joe got out, it didn't work out for him, and assimilating to the civilian life didn't go. As said, war is hell. It doesn't leave you alone. Our parents and grandparents who fought came home after their tour, utilized the VFW, AMVETS, American Legion, Elks, Eagles, etc. All these clubs are established to maintain and preserve the camaraderie that many people feel when they're serving. Many of the guys that I've served with that have fallen since appeared to have themselves squared away in the public lens. The greatest fear of someone who serves, military, first responder, or other, is to be the one who lets their team down. We hear all the time, don't be the one. Don't be the one that causes suffering to your platoon or group. Don't lose your bearing. Don't mess up. Doesn't matter if you're downrange or in the rear. For my fellow service members that give in to be at peace is one way of avoiding to be the one in their own mind. to not be the one who needs the help. Post 9/11, there have been approximately 30,200 veteran suicides. The truth is, everyone needs help, whether in life or work. If you don't, or claim you don't, you probably haven't realized your potential as a human being. My daughter Madison is here. She was born 1 week before I came home from Fallujah. She's been a constant in my life for 17 years, every day, through the worst and the best. She's doing well and looking at going to college. My son Sven Jr. is also here. Elon Musk, better watch out. He's got some serious competition. My service to our country is recognized here for my service to my children, I hope, will be echoed in the futures they seek to achieve. It is my hope this monument will instill the fortitude, self-confidence, and desire of the next girl or boy of Holliston that seeks the honor of serving this country and the community. For those who can't is all the reason one needs to make a difference. Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Herb Rockett. Herb is a combat veteran serving with the Army in Vietnam. He is a longtime resident of Holliston, has been active in town affairs for many years. The Senior Center was named in honor of his father. He has been instrumental in the development of the rail trail as a committee member. Herb.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say that in the days of Vietnam, you probably wouldn't have seen as many people out here today as we have. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much as a tribute to our country and where we are today in terms of how we view veterans, how we support veterans, how we thank veterans. Even on the way down here, marching down, someone said, thank you for your service. And from a time when you didn't hear much of that, it's greatly appreciated. A brief history of how this got here. I'm a member of the Rail Trail Committee. About 10 years ago, we had a conversation about a possible veterans park, veterans area, and we voted to have such an area, actually almost where it is. Then I went to a meeting at the VFW one time, and they had a very extensive plan that included most of the land from Central Street all the way to where we are here. Next, Bobby Blair came into a meeting with his ideas about a Veterans Park, which included a stone arch over the trail marking the location of it. And then when the Blair Square Committee was formed, I was involved with that. They designed a Veterans Park down by Central Street. It was a small area with one flagpole and one granite stone. And then Nappy wisely called me up about a year ago and said, we are an aging population. We have all the resources in place to build this thing. We have the money, the stone. Do you think we could move it? So thank you to the Blair Square Committee, the Rail Trail Committee, and the Selectmen for allowing us to bring it back to actually its home base rooting spot here. I was happy to be involved in the construction of this, and it took a while, and I'm wondering if anybody was watching this and they saw some of this stuff sitting here for months, they probably wouldn't want this crew building their new kitchen because it took us a while, but we got it here. I'd also like to thank the people that were involved, especially Vinnie Daramo, who's over there, who's Rembrandt-like talents with rock and stone, built this beautiful circle for us and allowed us to create this whole beautiful monument. These names are on this monument, unfortunately, as a result of war. I spent 12 months of my life in the jungles of South Vietnam carrying a radio on my back. I am very familiar with war. When we say we honor veterans, sometimes that word honor for me is confusing. We honor people like Tom Brady for 7 Super Bowl rings. We honor actors, musicians, statesmen, all kinds of people with honor. But this is a different kind of honor here. This is call it a sacrifice, but it's an honor of the highest regard. People on this monument and other monuments like this have been through an experience that is the most insane thing we do on the planet, and that is war. War touches people, there's so much suffering, there's so much at every level. War is just a bad thing. Wanted to just say a couple of words about sacrifice. Some of the sacrifices people make that fight a war, that are involved with a war. First of all, you might have to come to the sobering realization that you may die here, that you may never see your home again. It is the end of your innocence. You see things and you hear things that they say you can't unsee. There is no language. A previous speaker spoke about his experience, and there are no adjectives, no words, no language that can have enough sting, enough power, enough force to express what it's like to be in war. You say, war is hell. Well, you had the job from hell, but there's a big stretch between those two meanings. So when you honor these people, the other sacrifices, the sacrifice of guilt that you might feel for things you did or things you didn't do. And finally, everyone, I believe, who is involved with war is wounded. Either wounded physically, where it's more obvious, or the invisible mental and emotional scars that war produces. And as was mentioned before, there are 3 stars in this that are the result of those invisible wounds. So remember all these things when you see names on this monument and other monuments, and be grateful for the sacrifice and that these people did the dirty job of fighting a war, and they did what they were told to do, and they did it well. So the other thing I'd like to say is we're all here together. It's a beautiful day. There's a lot of things we take for granted about our life here. But one of the things that we are free from is war on our soil. And probably don't think about that too much, but it is an amazing thing to be free of that, because the destruction, the suffering is just so immense. So as you leave here today, be grateful for that and remember why we honor these veterans. Thank you.
And our last speaker for today is Keith Napolitano. Keith is a graduate of Holliston High School. He went on to the University of New Hampshire, where he joined the Air Force ROTC program. Upon graduation, was commissioned as a second lieutenant. He is a pilot flying the C-130 cargo plane. Keith spent 20 years on active duty, 14 active and 6 with the Air National Guard. He was deployed 7 times, 5 times while on active and 2 times with the Guard. He has received numerous air medals with 1,300 combat hour flights, over 240 missions. From 2018 to 2021, he was the commander of the 143rd Airlift Squadron out of Rhode Island. Keith will be retiring soon with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, and his civilian job, he will be flying for Delta Airlines. Keith?
Ladies and gentlemen, just have to bear with me one second. I'm trying to go high-tech here. Thank you, Ron, for that introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, you have to excuse me. This is the first time I've spoken in about 3 years in front of people who aren't obligated to laugh at my jokes and listen to every word I say. So again, I thank you very much for your time and attention. And thank you again to Ron and the committee, especially my father, who I can attest to the fact has lost sleep over this monument, making sure that everything was as perfect as possible. So if we can give a round of applause for that, for them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today both humbled and honored. Humbled to be asked to speak on behalf of Holliston's veterans, and honored to represent not just them, but this very community from which these names, these men and women were drawn. From Highland Street to Washington Street, to Norfolk, Prentice, Adams, from the Queens to my dear Mudville, and all the roads between. Every name on this wall has shared more than a zip code, more than a uniform. We shared a love of family, a love of community, and a love of our country. These commonalities, which were undoubtedly instilled at countless kitchen tables, classrooms, neighborhoods, streets, towns, fields, they all led to a calling, a desire to serve something bigger than ourselves. And answer that call, we did. Now, for those of us who stood up and also for the loved ones who stood behind those names, holding down the home front, supporting each other, anxiously awaiting our return. Each of them knew all too well that service is not something you see in the news, or in the movies, or perhaps in an airport, as you're on your way to a vacation or a job somewhere across the country. To them, service was personal. It was challenging, intimate, frustrating, and yes, sometimes scary. But more than anything, it was immeasurably rewarding. And whether you realize it or not, you, every person standing here today, taking time out of their day to come pay tribute to these men and women, you have all played a part in that service. You maybe not directly, but without question, at a minimum, indirectly. I can personally attest, like so many others, that I had a little bit of Holliston with me on every deployment, every mission, every sortie over the course of my 20-year career. During both the Iraq and Afghan campaigns, I deployed a total of 7 times. I flew just under 1,000 combat sorties to some of the most hostile and worst places on earth. And each flight, I had the pride of knowing I was making a difference by standing for the principles I cared for so deeply, many of which I am certain we all share. Indeed, Holliston's principles were never more apparent, more so than in 2007, when in my free time, I found myself volunteering, and again, you didn't have a whole lot of free time, but the little bit of free time you did have, I was volunteering at the trauma hospital in my base in north of Baghdad in Balad, Iraq. If you need a visual, think of the TV show MASH with a maze of interconnected tents where they were doing things from amputations to brain surgery. It was really amazing. They serviced Americans, Iraqis, good guys and bad, and unfortunately so many innocent children, all victim to sectarian violence. And when I told my parents of the supply shortages and the lack of basic comforts for these children, they mobilized their own little army and raised a veritable truckload of supplies and toys for the children I was helping take care of in the ICU. A magnificent effort, one that will warm my heart until the day I die. And for certain, these were not isolated incidents. These principles I have grown to love were also evident in every service member I had the honor of working with over there, each doing their very best to ultimately give the Iraqi and Afghan people a better life. We wanted to help make sure that their children would grow up in relative peace and safety and freedom, the same future I know we each want for our children. Now, to be clear, I don't believe this call to service was innate. We weren't born with it, rather we learned it. With every friendly gesture, with every welcoming smile, every pleasant memory, like first jobs at Mobil gas station, or Outpost Farm, or walking to Fists to get a pack of baseball cards, or maybe even going over to Tabletop to get a pizza and a soda. We have this community to thank for imbuing us with this sense of purpose, for giving us something worth fighting for. Now, there's another bit of gratitude I would like to mention, and it has already been mentioned here today, one that I have repeated continuously every chance I get over 20 years. And that is a huge thank you to my father's generation of Vietnam veterans, many of whom bore the brunt of a confused, emotional, and very polarizing time in our country's history. My generation has reaped the benefits, the fruits of their labor, and a labor that eventually taught our society that it's okay to disagree with our government's policies democratically and fight against the policymakers so long as you don't take those frustrations out on us, the policy enforcers. I would venture to say that over my 20-year career, with only rare exceptions, I have seen veterans greeted with the utmost dignity and respect. So we've been able to serve with honor and best intentions, even if some didn't necessarily agree politically or personally with us being over there. Monuments like this that pay tribute to the here and the now, not decades later, are a testament to how far we have come. In closing, I would like to say on behalf of the men and women of the armed services, thank you all for making Holliston the amazing community that it is. You all not only made this monument possible, but you made the people on this wall possible. Every handshake, every thank you, every remembrance, every brick laid before you on these newly hallowed grounds brings honor not just to those of us who wear the uniform, but it should also bring a sense of pride and honor to every citizen of this town. The men and women named on this wall represent how we all strive to achieve the very best in us, the best of our morals, the best of our ideals, the best of our commitments, and they represent the best of each and every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. I think, Steve, you have some appreciation to dole out.
A couple of them.
Make it short, we're getting hot.
All right, folks. Right now, I'd like to take a moment to give special thanks to some people who were extremely important in making this monument come to fruition. As you can imagine, something like this, where we didn't have a blueprint to go by, certainly took a lot of time. Okay, so it was a slow, tedious project to do, but we did it. We drove right in with both feet, and I want to thank the people that helped us to get to this point. First, I'd like to thank the Holliston Select Board, both present and in the past, for giving us the go-ahead to implement the monument. The Rail Trail Committee for giving us permission to build on this site. And those that supported notices and brick ads, such as HCAT with their public service announcements and interviews, Ken Henderson and his articles from Holliston Reporter, Russ Tompkins of Star Sign, Keith Napolitano for setting up the website to purchase the bricks online. The drawings, preliminary visiting drawings by my good friend Nat Simpkins, which is basically the only thing we had to go by, but it helped, I'll tell you. Also, I want to mention the Holliston Police and Fire Departments for your continual support to our veterans. We are so fortunate to have men and women on our departments who give back so much to our community on a daily basis. Also, the vetting of the Veterans Service Officers Sarah Bateman, John D'Souza, and John Givner. They did the background on all these men and women, their military records, to see who met the criteria for getting on this wall, and it took them months to do it. Okay, now my favorite guys here, I gotta say, which are the contractors. To all the contractors who went above and beyond any of my expectations, I express my heartfelt thanks, because this was not an easy task to undertake. The site work was done by Herb Rockett, who just spoke a few minutes ago, of Construction Services, Peter Koshavaki of Koshavaki Excavation, Sean Reese and Rob Walker, and all the men from the Holliston Highway Department that come down here to help us out on occasions, on things we needed done. The electrical work was performed by Tom Chipman of Chipman Electric and his guys. They worked with Eversource to get us power. And in case anybody wants to know, one little point, this telephone pole back here, this was one of the big selling points for this site. We thought we had power here. Unbeknownst to us, the power was down there. We had to dig a utility trench that was 125 feet long and about 4 foot deep to get power here. And that's where Herb and Peter and those guys came in with their machines. And also Tom Chipman and his guys laying all that work underground for us. Thank you so much. The monument and the engraving. Dave Burrows, where was I here? Yes, the monument and the engraving. Dave Burrows, his business partner, Jamie Lorenzo, and his son, Justin Burrows of Ackerman Monument. They supplied the monument and did all this beautiful hand engraving up here, and our centerpiece of granite with the 5 emblems of the service. Just a wonderful job. And as someone mentioned earlier, the masonry work, this is one guy I couldn't thank enough. Because what you're looking at here on the ground, basically the blueprint was in Vinny's head. Vinny Duramo of Duramo Masonry, we pulled every idea we could out of his head. And what a job he did. There's one more person I would like to thank before I close out here, and that's my wife, Jackie. I don't know where she went, but where are you hiding? There you are. I just want to thank her, because if anybody that knows my wife, she jumps in on things like this with both feet, and I got to tell you, I couldn't thank her enough. She made my job that much easier, and also my fellow committee members, their job a little bit easier. So I appreciate all your support. I know the veterans do too, Jackie. And to all those who stopped by and volunteered their time to help us out, thank you. Your time is immeasurable. In conclusion, remember our soldiers and their families for their sacrifices, because thank you is never enough. In closing, I would like to thank you all for being here today. Our soldiers and veterans appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
In closing, I'd like to recognize a couple of World War II veterans that are with us today. Vincent Trumfio, who served in Europe, and Bob Hopkins, who served in China for 2 years. And I'm pleased to say will be our Grand Marshal for the Memorial Day Parade coming up. As we close this ceremony, I would encourage you to take up the defense of freedom that these folks named on this monument have given so much for. Our democracy depends on the rest of us to keep it alive and vibrant. One way you can do that is by voting. Let your voice be heard. Thank you for coming. God bless America. Little travel music, please.